Hey everyone, it's Julie Cantor from To Mentor, and I am really happy to bring and have Nadine Binder with me here today. And first off, did I pronounce that correctly? Is it Binder or Binder?
It's Binder, yeah.
Binder. Okay, I caught myself, Nadine, right in
No
the
worries,
middle.
no
Um,
worries.
Nadine is someone I really admire. She's incredibly thoughtful, and we've been communicating a lot about two things: mentoring for diversity professionals and a global perspective on mentoring. And I really wanted Nadine to be with us today to share some of her perspective on mentoring. She's based in Germany. And Nadine, go ahead and introduce yourselves and please tell our audience a little bit about you.
Thanks, Julie. So thanks for having me. I'm super delighted. And thanks for watching, guys. So I'm based in Northern Germany right now due to the pandemic, pretty much on the countryside. And I'm working in intercultural training, but also diversity and inclusion work. And so I do a mix of training, consulting, coaching, working with people to sort of become, the best version of themselves, to communicate better with others, and to manage differences in a constructive way. And ever since the pandemic, everything has moved online, of course. I also am volunteering for a bunch of organizations, including Young Theater, where we also have a mentoring program. So that's where I'm particularly interested in the whole mentoring aspect. And yeah, that's sort of a little bit about me and the different hats I'm wearing.
Great, great. Well, so you and I are both involved with Inclusion Allies
Mhm.
Coalition. It's a group of 700 plus diversity leaders and executives that came together after the 2016 election, and it's really grown globally. Do you want to say a few words about Inclusion Allies Coalition and
Sure.
kind of what got you involved with
Yeah.
IAC?
Yeah, sure. And again, it's the pandemic, so some good stuff has come out of it actually. Because last year, back in April, they approached a colleague of mine who's very active with the Inclusion Ally Coalition anyways, if we want to do a webinar session on survival strategies for independent practitioners, because it was a tough time for everybody. And that turned into a global community of, I think right now we're a little bit more than 280 people spread across the world. And we meet on a monthly basis for the globally conscious peacemakers, which is a community that's very involved with making a global difference. And it is sponsored by the Inclusion Ally Coalition. So that has been my way in. And then I checked them out more and I saw that they were trying to go more global. And they have a mentoring program. And I thought this is a perfect opportunity for me because I'm at a stage in my career with intercultural work where I have become a mentor rather than a mentee. And with diversity and inclusion work, I feel I'm a little bit more in the beginning of my career and there's a lot for me to explore and learn and grow more confident. And so, yeah, having the Inclusion Ally Coalition offer mentoring and being able to learn more, also more about global perspectives outside of Germany in terms of diversity inclusion work, that's just been really interesting for me to, yeah,
Oh,
connect
that's
with people.
great. So it's really what I hear in your story, Nadine, is that you've mentored others. You're newer in the global diversity and
Mm-hmm.
inclusion space. So you're realizing I can reach out to people that have been there, done that, and really all over the globe through IAC,
Yeah.
and can also get some mentoring support. So, in a way, you're part of what we call a pay it forward chain, where you reach out to mentors and other people reach out to you to be their mentor. So let me ask you first, can you sort of share a little your perspective of how mentoring differentiates from coaching?
Hmm. Yeah, sure,
Thank
sure.
you.
And I'm happy to talk about because I'm just about to finish my certification as a coach. So
I'll be
that's something I'm
calling you.
also
I'll be
very.
calling you, Nadine.
And what I like to me, the difference is that, and it's often in my coaching, people push me in a role where I'm more of a mentor. So I try to be very transparent about it because I feel like as a coach, my role is mainly to ask questions and to really co-create the relationship with my client, and they are exploring what they already know. So it's a lot about seeing them as a resourceful, wholesome client. They know their own truths, they know their own way forward. They might not see it yet, and as a coach I'm just trying to bring that out and to enable their transformation that they know already. Whereas as a mentor, I'm bringing my experience and my knowledge to the table, and I might offer a little bit more advice if people ask me for it. I might try to build connections to other people. So if I've been mentoring people and they say, I'm really passionate about this and this, I'll say, oh, I know someone who's in this field, let me reach out to them. So I'm helping them broadening their network. I might ask them if they want a job shadow, be with me when I train, just to see how it works, or maybe even give them a chance to, facilitate part of a session just to get them more experience and exposure. Sharing a little bit how I've done certain things, but also sometimes playing devil's advocate, pushing them a bit to, think bigger, or dare to try something new, or dare to see a different perspective. Usually with the intent to as I said, make them think bigger and be bolder. Yeah.
Very good. Very good. That's really, really helpful. And that experience sharing really comes up instead of telling someone what they should do with their lives, or how they need to live their lives, or how they can become more like, trying to put someone into your own image, but let them be themselves. Let them do you. And let me share how I handled a similar challenge, or from my experience. So do you think mentoring is different, or it's viewed differently in Germany than it is in the United States or other parts of the globe? When you think of mentoring?
It's a really good question, and I'm so curious to explore it more now through the IAC sponsored program, because I think we'll have people, across countries and see how it works. From what I've seen so far, I think there are some differences in how prominent it is or how it's viewed. And my impression, but that might be wrong, it's just my subjective feeling so far, is that what I've noticed in the States is that there is this very individualist culture. And so reaching out for mentoring, like, I think for some people is a big step to say, I'm looking for support, and to see that actually is a positive step. Whereas in Germany, it's a little less individualist. And so mentoring for a long time has been something that you would proudly say, I have mentoring, and this would be sort of a plus point, that you are, you're relying on the expertise of more senior people. But if you're a more senior person, being a mentor is also seen as, a service to the community, a service to the next generation. It might not always be as formal. I think that's the other difference I'm noticing, at least now working with you and working with the IAC, that it seems so professional, and like there is a lot of like very conscious terminology and programs and advice and a roadmap. And what I've seen in Germany, I think for the bigger companies that would be true, but there's also a lot of very informal mentoring that is not particularly through a program, but it's more like, your supervisor takes on a mentoring role, or I take on a mentoring role for our interns sometimes. And it's not always as explicit and as agreed upon.
Well, we definitely, when I started my company 5 years ago, started realizing that there was a huge business case for mentoring, and it's hard to measure it if you don't have a program or a formal program. And I think one of the biggest aha moments was, as I traveled really the globe, finding out that less than 30% of executives were saying they had a mentor. And less than 30% were saying that they had someone they could go to on an ongoing basis for professional advice. And then under 10% were saying that they were currently mentoring someone else. But I want to go back to a point you made, which I think is dead on. And that is the fear of asking for help, the fear of looking weak, and not wanting to look like you have need. We definitely are a culture of everything's fine, everything's great, I'm doing great. And let's face it, especially during this pandemic, we're all struggling. But if we don't open ourselves up to real conversations where we feel safe, that often can be mentoring conversations, if we're not open to them, we can isolate. And I think there's a direct correlation with mental health and well-being and engagement and productivity and retention. So when we're not afraid to ask for help, and in one study of mentees at Sun Microsystem, people who asked for help experienced significant benefits at their company, from retention to promotion to salary increases to everything. But that individualism, that fierce, rugged individualism, I can pull myself up by my own bootstraps and I don't need any help might be doing us a disservice. So we might, that's a really great point. Nadine, before we close, because we don't want we promised we'd kind of keep it
short.
and I could talk to you all day. I'm loving this conversation. But share with our listeners, what are some things that you personally, we're about to stand up a mentoring initiative for diversity professionals to mentor diversity professionals. Very excited about this. But what are a couple of things that you are looking for in a mentor that will make it a good match? What are you looking for and to get out of this relationship?
It's a brilliant question. I think it's so important. It might be so different for each and every person, and it helped me so much to sort of have more clarity what I need, what serves me. And I think it's someone that I sort of look up to. I think, like, for me, a perfect mentor is someone who has achieved something that I'm aspiring to, but is also sufficiently close to me that it doesn't seem like I can never achieve it. So it's sort of a role model that is like a few steps ahead. Interestingly, to me, it has often been other women, because it gives me a lot of ideas on, like, how do I want to present myself, and how can I be more confident and assertive in my own style. And so it's not that I'm not open to being mentored by someone of a different gender, but it has worked really well for me so far to have someone where, like, there's a little bit of a match in some of the experience that we've had. Whereas, for example, interestingly enough, I would be super open to any other, like, it doesn't have to be someone who's in Germany. It would be nice to have someone who's aware that some of the topics might be discussed differently in different countries. But I think it's also a great opportunity to look beyond your own context and to learn from people who work in a different setting. And yeah, I think having someone who's not afraid to challenge me, and to speak their mind, and someone who's passionate about what they do. I think this is my number one thing. Like, people who are passionate about what they're doing and who really believe in what they're doing, I think that's the most beautiful thing and the most powerful thing. And so having that in a mentor, I think it's very crucial.
Well, whoever gets you as their protege mentee is very lucky. And I can tell you, Nadine, that anytime I talk to mentors, they always say the same thing. I got just as much out of it, if not more, than my mentee did. So your responses, your thoughtfulness, seeing where you want to go and grow in your work and helping other people. How can people reach you if anyone wants to kind of continue a discussion? Is there a website for your peacemakers work? Like, how can we tell everyone about you?
Yeah, so there is nadinebinder.com. So, nothing in between, just my first and last name and then .com. And you find that in German and English, and it gives you contact details and a little bit about my work. And if you add /GCP, that's for the Globally Conscious Peacemakers. So nadinebinder.com/GCP, that's where you find information about the Peacemaker initiative that's been sponsored by the IAC. And I'm one of these horrible people who are not very active on social media yet. So it's pretty much the website. I think that's the best way to connect.
Great. Well, thank you, Nadine. Super nice to talk with you today.
Thanks for having me.